Welcome to Module 1's content presentation. These objectives are clearly listed for the first chapter in your textbook. We will address the importance of skillful teachers, diversity, multi-tiered systems of support, and behavior assumptions. All children exhibit undesirable behavior at times. Most children learn quickly what is and is not allowed in particular settings. Other children need more assistance to learn to exhibit appropriate rule-following behaviors. A graduated model of increasingly more intensive supports, as data indicate need, is an effective and efficient approach to increasing appropriate behavior and reducing challenging behaviors across all students in schools or other settings. Teachers' beliefs about student behavior and their day-to-day classroom practices are important predictors of classroom management success. Teachers have much power to influence student behavior in positive ways using techniques associated with positive behavior supports. The most effective behavior management approaches are those that emphasize teaching and supporting desired behaviors. One systematic method for addressing diverse student behaviors is the evidence-based framework PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, thoroughly developed and most researched by George Sugai. Here he is describing the significance of PBIS.
So thank you very much for giving me this chance to be able to share with you some of the things that are important in the work that we do. My name is George Sugai, and I work at the University of Connecticut, and I co-direct the National Center on Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And I'm also the director at UConn for the Center for Behavioral Education and Research. And what we do is we provide schools, states, districts, and so forth access to some of the best evidence-based practices for behavioral supports that we can find. And what we try to do is pick those practices that are the most evidence-based, have the biggest effects, and can be the most durably implemented or sustained. The reason I emphasize that is because we're very interested in how the implementation of best practice actually falls out in schools. To give you a little bit of an idea about how we organize our work, we have this umbrella called School-Wide Positive Behavioral Supports. And what that is a framework that allows us to build a continuum of evidence-based interventions. And that continuum, many schools have already identified as being the multi-tiered prevention or kind of response to intervention kind of approach. And what that really means on the behavior side is that we identify those things that all kids within a school can benefit from for their social development growth, and also to prevent the development of problem behaviors. And what we've learned from that is that one of the best things you can do is identify some of the 3 or 4 most important social skills for a school to have in place, like respect or responsibility or caring or safety. And we help schools develop lesson plans for teaching those and building them into the curriculum and the language of the school. If schools do a good job of implementing those basic structures, what happens then is that we, as I like to say, capture about 90% of the kids, 80% of the kids or so, under that basic umbrella of a positive school climate. And then we start saying to ourselves, well, what do those kids need that's a little extra to be successful? We try to stay away from a get tough approach to responding, which means do more aversives. But instead what we try to do is say, if a kid's not responding to our basic interventions, what can we do to be a little bit more systematic and efficient with that kid? So for example, at Tier 2, what happens is that we provide a little bit more monitoring, we provide a little bit more adult attention, we give more feedback to the student on how he or she's doing, have them participate in more targeted social skills instruction. It's a little bit more concentrated, but it's at a group level. Then what happens is we tend to capture many of those kids with respect to being successful. Then there's always a few kids, 5 to 7% of kids, who don't respond to either Tier 1 or Tier 2 supports. And at that point, we start providing more individualized assistance, which is more creating, kind of in a way, looking at their strengths and challenges and saying, well, what can we do best to maximize those strengths and minimize the kind of limitations that are present. So that's what the continuum looks like. And we organize our interventions along that continuum in responding to those students. Now, to make that work, there are a couple kind of like practices that we invest in. Things like universal screening, which means we check all kids on a regular basis to see how they're doing. We do continuous progress monitoring, especially for kids who are receiving Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. We make sure that we are checking the fidelity or accuracy of our implementation, because one thing we're finding is you can have an evidence-based practice, but if you don't implement it with fidelity, you're not going to get the outcomes that you need. The other thing that goes along with those practices is that we spent quite a bit of time focusing on what is important or relevant to the local culture. And that's the family value systems, the community value systems, the language of the membership of the community, the kinds of things that kids bring to the classroom from families and communities. We try to build those into the interventions as well, school-wide as well as individual kid. So that kind of summarizes the critical kind of practices that go along with the continuum and how we address all kids. I think the other thing to add to this is that the implementation is actually not one that you can easily get in a one-shot in service. We work with school teams. When a school says they want this, we say, identify a group of individuals, existing team or a new team, that has an administrator who's very supportive of the effort, so you've got to identify the need for it. We work with that team to build an action plan for how they would implement these evidence-based practices and build the continuum within their school. So it's not the traditional in-service where we say, here's what best practices, go do it. Instead, what we say is, here's a set of best practices. Let's help you develop the structures for implementing it in your school. So implementation is actually where a lot of professional development occurs. On that team, we have parent members. For middle schools and high schools, we have student representation. We make sure that we have classroom representatives as well as non-classroom participants. And we try to make sure we have community members involved. And that team drives the implementation of the continuum development and its efforts. Now, having said that, working with individual kids, classrooms, and schools, the shift is that we're now focusing quite a bit of our attention on districts and states.
We use PBIS to teach appropriate behaviors in various contexts based on data studied about what occurs at particular locations and times. Most teachers cite minor problems as their greatest concern. The types of problems most frequently reported include behaviors such as disruptions, talking out, horseplay, disrespect toward the teacher, cheating, and tardiness. Reflect. Did you experience a student's behavior today or recently that sounds familiar to these minor incidents? The focus of this class is on more intensive, frequent, and less predictable behavior management. While most school behavior problems are minor, some children exhibit more serious forms of misbehavior due to mental health disorders. Approximately 20% of children and youth are affected by diagnosable mental or addictive disorders. Approximately 5 to 9% of children have serious mental disorders. Approximately 40% of children with mental disorders have more than one disorder. We need to be aware of several cautions when we describe the prevalence of behavior concerns. Do you know how to define the term disproportionality? As we look at the next few slides, consider how you would define it for yourself. In addition to mental health challenges, other disabilities are associated with behavior difficulties. These facts have implications for teacher-student relationships, teacher-family relationships, and behavior management. Teachers must understand the values, priorities, beliefs, and behavioral styles of all the various diversity groups represented in their classrooms. Understand subtle behavioral characteristics that may be typical of particular cultural or ethnic groups, and not interpret these behaviors as problems, and understand their students' lives. Schools serve diverse student populations. In 2012, of all public school students, approximately 40% of students were members of minority groups, or culturally and linguistically diverse groups. Approximately 50% were eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and about 13% received services for a disability. Approximately 17% of teachers are from cultural or ethnic minority groups, and almost half of our nation's schools have no teachers from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. About 76% of all teachers are female. Based on this chart titled Concerns with Traditional Approaches and Disproportionality, we can develop a more clear understanding of disproportionality and why it is so important for teachers to be culturally responsive. Traditional discipline methods are disproportionately applied to certain groups of students. Disciplinary consequences are applied more often to students from culturally diverse backgrounds, particularly African American students. In addition, males, low-income students, and students with disabilities are more likely to receive exclusionary and more punitive consequences than are white, middle, or upper-class students. No objective evidence suggests that students of color act out more or are more disruptive than any other students. All humans hold biases based on the development of our individual neural networks. We must learn what they are, recognize them when they arise, and control their influence on our decision-making as teachers. This activity helps you explore your biases. Please listen to the insights of Dr. Richard Milner of Vanderbilt University. He addresses the issue that teachers have when confronted with this particular problem. Listen to this example. 3 weeks into the school year, Mrs. Arellano, a 10th grade English teacher in an urban high school, is frustrated that many of her students are still without the required materials, which cost less than $10. Because of this, her lessons are frequently disrupted as students try to borrow materials from their classmates. Many of the students claim they don't have the money to buy the items. Although she knows that many of them qualify for free or reduced price lunches, Mrs. Arellano wonders how her students can afford expensive tennis shoes and mobile devices, and she doesn't understand how their families justify buying these expensive items instead of basic school supplies. What are your perceptions about the students in this scenario? How would you handle the fact that the students don't have the required materials? In this first audio, Richard Milner provides some insights into this situation, and in the second audio, he discusses how teachers might address similar circumstances.
I think this is a very important scenario, and it speaks to what many teachers experience. One of the things that's critical for students to participate in the educational experiences, to participate in interactions with their friends and classmates, is for them to feel good about who they are. And so sometimes that means that students might feel like they have to have the latest fashion, the newest tennis shoes, or the latest polo shirt, or whatever it happens to be. But what's important to remember is students are doing that because they want to feel good about themselves. I've studied suburban schools. I've done work in rural areas. I've done a lot of my work in urban spaces. And what we find is that students are grappling with identity issues in all of those spaces. And the ways in which students respond to pressures that they are grappling with, whether it be academic, whether it be in a relationship with a friend or a classmate, they respond to those pressures in different ways. And so Some students might go and do drugs. Some students might stop going to class. Other students might purchase materials, technology, clothes, shoes that we might see as marginal to what matters in terms of their development. The big piece is that students are grappling with very difficult situations in different contexts, and students or parents' decision to have their children purchase clothing items or shoes, it's just one form of working on that identity piece.
Please consider what Dr. Milner said about the identity piece as you listen to his solution.
Some students are more school dependent than our other students. And so the school really has to play the vital role of being responsive to the economic and the educational needs of students. On a structural level, this goes beyond the teacher's classroom. I think the school should be responsible for making sure students have what they need to be successful. The second thing is, if students understand the necessities for them to be actively involved in what's happening in the classroom, and that it's necessary for them to spend money on resources to be successful, then that's part of the work that I think needs to take place in an explicit way, with the teacher helping students understand why she is pushing them to spend resources on school-related materials rather than on shoes or clothing or whatever that happens to be. But in order for those kinds of conversations to happen, a teacher has to develop solid and sustainable relationships with those students. If the teacher has not developed solid relationships such that she can say, listen, guys, I want you to be successful. I care about you. And I really wish you would put your emphasis on your academic development rather than worrying about how you look or the kinds of shoes you wear and those kinds of things. Now, in order for her to do that, that means she's going to have to encounter some of the things that students have come to believe about themselves, and really engaging in conversations and listening to students in terms of why they choose to spend money on clothing or shoes rather than on resources for the classroom. And I think that's done also in consultation with parents as well. The ability of this teacher to talk with and empathize with the parents is also important, so that the teacher and the parents can partner together around what is important. I think the thing that would do more harm than good is for the teacher to go in a judgmental way with parents about why the parents are making the decisions they're making. So it really has to be a partnership. You know, I care about your child. I want him or her to be successful. Here's what you can do to help me with that. Now, I'm open as the teacher to hear what things I can do to complement and supplement what's necessary for your child to be successful as well.
At this point, we're going to pause in this module. You should be reflecting on your own biases and how to metacognitively check your assumptions prior to identifying behaviors as problematic. Most importantly, communicate positive words with kind actions.